Hello everyone, and hope you're all having a great Wednesday. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Jean McDowell with traderscoach.com, and I'm looking forward to introducing our educational speaker for tonight. Welcome to those of you that are new to Wednesday Night Live, and of course, good to see all you nice folks that attend each and every week. Just sort of let you know about Wednesday Night Live, it's designed to bring you a different guest educator each and every week. That way you'll have access to a variety of trading ideas and methods, and you can stay on the cutting edge by constantly expanding your knowledge base. So each and every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, we bring in a trading and investing expert to talk to us about different topics such as technical analysis, money management, and trading psychology, and more. So tonight we have Bennett McDowell of traderscoach.com talking to us about psychology and how important that is to boost your bottom line. Bennett is founder of traderscoach.com, and he's an expert in technical analysis, money management, and trading psychology. He speaks at trade shows and writes articles for leading publications such as Technical Analysis of Stocks and Commodities magazine. And he's also honored to be able to present the Trade Station morning market briefing every Wednesday morning. In addition, traderscoach.com has received numerous Stocks and Commodities Reader's Choice Awards, and McDowell has written 3 best-selling books published by John Wiley & Sons: The Art of Trading, A Trader's Money Management System, and Survival Guide for Traders. His Elliott Wave Techniques Simplified book is due out in 2015. Well, Ben, we're thrilled to have you talk to us about psychology tonight, so I'm going to turn the mic over to you now.
Thank you, Jean. It's great to be here, and I want to welcome everybody to tonight's webinar. All right, so let me go ahead and get going here. There's a couple things we want to do at the get-go here. First of all, for taking the time to join us tonight, I just updated the market report for the Dow Jones, so you may want to download this. This is a free report for you. Just go ahead and click on that link, and this is a link that Jean put in the chat area as well. So you can access that report at any time during the webinar. Okay, so today we're going to talk about make your psychology work for you, not against you. You know, psychology is an important aspect of what I call the trading pie. And in front of you on this slide here, you can see how we've made the trading psychology a slice of the pie. The pie of trading has many slices. One is going to be your trading approach or trading system. The other slice, of course, is money management. You also have the slice of risk control and money management. Those should be actually put together. Okay, selection, too. How do you find your markets? That certainly can be a piece of the trading pie, too. And, of course, trading psychology. Trading psychology is the glue that really holds a trading approach together. Because if you don't have what we call a trader's mindset, what happens is you're not going to have the discipline to execute your signals properly. So the market can be very seductive at times, as we all know, and you have to have that discipline to stay with your edge, your system. So trading psychology has to be mastered in order for you to be a successful trader in this business. A couple of quick things you have to understand about trading, of course, is that there is risk in trading. But, you know, without that risk, guess what? There's no opportunity. So the two go hand in hand, and you know what? It's true for anything in life, okay? So, you know, there's risk in everything we do. What we want to try to do is take controlled risks as much as possible, and that's, of course, where risk control comes in. All right, so I've also created a home study course that we're going to talk about a little bit later in the session, and we've got, Jean's got a great deal on this, but it's called the Optimum Trading Psychology Course, and it's designed in order for you to gain the trader's mindset. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that later today. As Jean had mentioned, we have several books available, and you can access these books through Amazon or all the major bookstores, but they cover a wide gambit, all the way from risk control to how to run your trading as a successful hedge fund, and my new book on Elliott Wave due out shortly in 2015. So I welcome everybody to check those out. And Amazon is a fun place to look, and Jean just put a link up there to the Amazon website where these books are located, and it's fun to read the reviews. So I always enjoy Amazon. All right, now I've got a few questions I want to ask you all out there in order for us to start talking about psychology. All right, first of all, do any of you find that currently your emotions are interfering with your trading? Is anybody experiencing this? Gary says yes. Quite a number of folks have saying yes. So of course, okay, and especially, I got to tell you, when you first start out in trading, it's kind of interesting because when you first start out, you kind of think it's all about a trading system. Then you start trading the markets, and guess what? You find, guess who's your worst enemy? You are, right? I mean, we literally can talk ourselves out of perfectly good trades and talk ourselves into perfectly terrible trades at times. And that's something you really aren't aware of when you begin this business. And you think it's really all about having just the tools. And the tools are important, but you got to know how to use the tools and have the discipline to integrate the tools into a trading approach. So I think that it's really important to be honest here with yourselves that, you know what, we all have emotions, and probably all of us, even the experienced one, have to battle to control those emotions. So it's something we always have to work on, and we always have, there's little triggers you're going to find when you're trading that create different kinds of emotions. And you'll get more familiar with these triggers the more you trade. And we're going to talk about how to handle those in just a little bit. All right, how many of you feel stressed out after trading? And this probably is more geared for day traders than really position traders, because with day trading, you have immediate feedback coming at you every day, whereas position traders tend to be able to spread that feedback over several days, weeks, and sometimes even months, of course. So how many of you feel stressed out after trading? Quite a few, yes. Of course, okay. A lot of times you'll feel stressed out because you may be lacking structure in your trading, and so we're going to talk about that as well. What is the most destructive emotion you feel, you personally feel, while you're trading? And some of you just go ahead and type in what kind of emotion you think is the biggest problem in your trading. Greed, anger, fear. I'm seeing a whole bunch of different things. Self-doubt, ooh, that's a good one. Lack of discipline. Doubt, defeat, interesting, defeat. Defeat can kind of be attached to ego and kind of feel like, depends on how you feel that defeat, because if you feel defeated after just one trade, well, you have to go re-examine the fact that in trading some losses are normal. So you shouldn't feel that after one trade, but if you're experiencing consecutive losses, then you're going to feel that. So we're going to talk about that as well. All right, now I want to switch gears. How many people out there feel trading really is the perfect business? How many feel trading is the perfect business? Yes, yes, and Gary says not sure. All right, well, you know, that's an honest answer, okay? Probably you're still checking it out. Could be the perfect business. I do. I'm just reading everybody's remarks. There couldn't be anything better. Okay, well, I think you got to get to a point where you feel that trading is the perfect business. And so you have to prove that to yourself. And the problem is, if you don't believe it, then you're not going to achieve it. It's that simple. All right? You have to believe trading is the perfect business. And if you have any self-doubt, we need to work on that, because that's going to come up and cause you issues later. All right? So, you know, if you have a situation where you're working hard and you're still working on your trading approach and you get discouraged, then if you don't have that belief that trading is a perfect business, then you're probably either going to throw the towel in or just plain sabotage yourself later on. So I really feel trading is the perfect business, and one of the primary reasons is it's learnable. 2, it's recession-proof. And you can work from home. These days with the technology, you can work anywhere, so you can't get anything better than that. You don't have any office politics. And, you know, the market, okay, basically rewards you on whether you're right or wrong. not who you know. That's refreshing, isn't it? Okay, you're getting basically rewarded for your performance and nothing else. You can control your destiny, and you know, I've done real estate and I've done trading and I've done all sorts of things and a variety of different investment vehicles. But I got to tell you, the nice thing about trading is that when the economy or the markets are not doing well and heading down, you can make money by shorting those markets. And then when they reverse, you can make money on the upside too. So when trends are down, we make money. When trends are up, you make money. Not all investments or even vehicles are like that. I know the retail sector, if you had a retail sector during that big sell-off back around 2007 and 8, all right, a lot of them went out of business because they couldn't make money when things were going down. Trading offers that opportunity. Real estate, same thing. You can make money when it goes up, but when it goes down, it's a little more difficult. So a lot of these variables here really is what make trading a very unique business. Also, too, the vehicles that we have at our fingertips in order to take advantage of the various markets out there are more today than ever. Think about the ETFs for a minute. You have an ETF for real estate. You don't even need to buy real estate anymore. You can just use the ETFs. If you want to be a house builder, use the ETFs. All right? You can make money on the upswing and downswing. They even have ETFs that are leveraged 3 times and 2 times, etc., for both bull and bear markets on those. So there is opportunity. There are vehicles, all right, that we can use for just about any investment arena. It wasn't like that always, but it's really come to tuition today. All right, so I think taking control of your financial future requires you to be able to make money in both good economies and bad. You have to have the staying power, and this is where trading really excels. All right, now let's shift gears again a little bit. I want to take a look at where you personally are now. So I've got some things I want you to ask yourself. Now, don't put these in the questions area because you don't need to, but I just want you to answer them to yourself. I'm going to read them, and then you personally at home answer them. Do you feel anxiety and stress when you trade? Are you working harder but still losing in the markets? Do you feel wound up at the end of a trading day? Does the market feel like a hostile place for you? Are you failing to execute your trading signals? Are you constantly searching for a trading system? And then finally, are you consistently losing? Okay? Now, if you answered yes to a majority of those questions, and we need to work on your psychology, all right? If you answered maybe 1, you're probably in pretty good shape, but there's always room for improvement. So kind of take a note of that personally and see where you are. Because our goal here is, as I said before, is to develop what we call the trader's mindset. And when you have this, basically you're successfully trading, you're working less and making more. Wow, that's an interesting concept. I know when I was being brought up as a kid, you had to work harder to make more. All right, the markets are not quite like that. All right, doesn't mean you don't have to work, but the idea is once you have an edge, a winning system, then how do you make more money with that system? You play it more often, all right, or you increase the capital that you have allocated into that system so you can trade it more often, all right? So that's how you can make more money but not work any additional time. It's the same amount of time to trade a $10,000 account as it is a $100,000 account, for example. All right, another thing you'll know when you have the trader's mindset is you'll basically treat trading as a business, and you'll take small losses and let your winners ride and think nothing of it. All right, you'll get hit a couple times for some losers, but you won't throw the stapler out the window. You're going to learn to trade calmly and confident. You're going to enjoy trading and basically enjoy your life. All right, so with the trader's mindset, it's important, and I really feel it is, if you want to call something the Holy Grail, it is the Holy Grail, but you have to master your mind first, and that's going to take a little bit of work on your end. Even Warren Buffett says you have to be able to control yourself. You can't let emotions get in the way of your mind. And that applies not only to trading, but to investing as well. And I've seen perfectly good trading approaches traded by two different people. One's successful and one's not. It's almost like, you know, you see two people open up a store right in the same town, selling the same thing, whether it's a restaurant, a hardware store. One's successful, one's not. Why? Because psychology and how they made decisions came into play in deciding whether they're successful or not. And a lot of that issue, okay, could be some form of self-sabotage. And we'll talk about that too. So we're going to focus today on factors affecting psychology. We have to know what can affect our psychology in order to fix it, right? So some of the factors I want to cover today, and this is not all of them, but these are significant factors, is looking at visual perception. In other words, when we see something, is it an illusion or is it real? Also, there's another kind of perception, emotional, all right? In other words, when you look at a glass half full, is it half full or half empty to you? All right? Your mood or your emotional perception will answer that question. Your environment, past and present, will affect your current psychological state. And I'm sure many of you can think of others as well. But let's just focus on these three for the moment. And let's now start and take a look at our visual perception and talk about that so you can kind of understand what I mean when I say, are we seeing reality for what it is? Are we looking at an illusion or are we looking at something real? All right, our minds are capable really of a lot more than we realize. And the visual examples I'm about to show you are going to illustrate how our minds can conceive and create illusions, and at times we may not even be aware of it. So let's take a look at this one first. This is kind of a neat one. Just kind of absorb this. Now, all lines and edges are strictly horizontal and vertical in this picture, all right? And they're all parallel and perpendicular to each other. But, of course, when you look at it, they appear otherwise, don't they? They do not appear straight. If you took a ruler, okay, they'd all be straight lines. So the different coloring of the boxes creates this illusion. Take a look at this. Now this is a regular 2D picture, yet it's moving. Looks almost 3D, doesn't it? It's kind of cool, isn't it? Can you see it move? Yeah, everybody says yes. How about this one? Stare at that picture of the woman, the negative of that woman, for 15 seconds. Stare right at the dot on her nose. After 15 seconds, immediately look to the right where it's white. What do you see? Anybody, what do you see out there? Smiling face. Beautiful woman, right? Isn't that amazing? Kind of cool. You got to stare at the dot on the nose. Okay, here's another one of the lines being parallel illusion. They're actually straight parallel lines there. All right, here's cool. This one's cool. Count the black dots. Turn white, don't they? This one's called rotating snakes. This one's a pretty popular one out there. You may have seen this one before. But again, this is a 2D picture, but it's moving. This is another one that moves. Kind of like in a jerky type of fashion, moving to the right for me. Now this is an interesting one. Take a look at A and B, the squares A and B on this picture. All right? They look like different colors, don't they? They're actually the same exact color. I know you think it's impossible, but that's the exact truth. Take a look at this one, lines connecting. Okay, if you look at the left, looks like the blue line connects to the black one, doesn't it? But really the red one does. And here's another one. This one's moving as well. Kind of cool. There's an artist who takes this illusion and takes it in an art form, and it's called Julian Beaver. And what he does is he goes to cities and he draws these 3D drawings on a sidewalk. And here's an example of his work. And notice the boy standing what appears to be on top of a building, looking down into the city. But you know, it's not really a building, so to speak. It looks 3D, but it's not. And there's Julian Beaver himself drawing it right on the sidewalk. Talented guy. Pretty cool. All right. So, hey, that's great. That's really cool, Ben. But what does this really have to do with trading? All right. Well, let's talk about that. Okay. Visual examples illustrate how our minds can conceive and create illusions we may not even be aware of. So when you look at those pictures that are vibrating and moving, all right, to you that looks real. But the reality is guess what? They're not moving. Okay? They're really not. Those parallel lines are parallel. But the illusion that you think is reality is that they are not. Okay? So these are examples of visual illusions. Okay? And illusions in general can be created visually, like I just showed you, or also may be created subconsciously by emotions created by beliefs. All right? So we need to learn how to control these types of powerful illusions created from within, especially when we talk about looking at our subconscious level here. Okay? All right, since visual examples illustrate how our minds can conceive and create illusions, this leads us to ask, are you seeing the market as it really is? Okay, let's take a look at this. We'll call this chart A, okay? Now, what kind of emotion does this chart generate in you? Anybody out there? None, ranging. Yeah, it's kind of a boring market, isn't it? Doesn't really create much emotion, does it? How about this chart? Take a look at this. We'll call this chart B. Does this create a little bit more, let's say, emotional anxiety maybe, and potential, do you see some swing trades, or is it a messy market that freaks you out? Volatile, okay? It's a volatile market. So your emotions are a little bit different. Well, actually, it's the same market. The only difference is we mess with the X and Y axis, the time, okay, and the date axis below. We kind of zoomed in on it. So the thing you've got to think about and take note of is when you're looking at charts on your particular platform, charting platform, all right, how you have them positioned may be creating emotions that you're not aware of on markets that may be overdone, so to speak. Your emotions may be a little bit overdone as compared to what's really going on in the market. So be careful how you set your charts up. Also, too, there was a study done that says your monitors need to be at least eye level or above. And the study indicated that traders did better when they had that type of monitor set up. So these type of things are just kind of little things you can think about when you're looking at them, okay? Now I want to shift gears here and get away from the visual for a minute and now focus on the emotional perception, all right? This is your mood, okay? Are you fearful, scared, optimistic? All right, illusions, as we said, can be visual. We showed you a couple of those, all right? Or may be created subconsciously by emotions created by beliefs. All right, now, exercise for everybody. And I want you to put this in the chat. Without thinking, don't think. Write down, what animal does the market signify to you? So if you had to designate the market as an animal, what would it be? I'm getting lion, otter, dove, tiger, bull, snake, deer, okay, bear, a bull, okay. Now, what's important here is the animal you chose. Does it frighten you or not? And that, you don't have to put that in the chat area. This is a personal question. Does it frighten you or not? Because your answer will tell you much about your beliefs in the market in general. If the market is threatening or tricky to you, you will most likely choose an animal that could hurt you or deceive you. All right? And, you know, if I say a lion, and I love lions, okay, lions may be scary to somebody else, but if I choose a lion and I like a lion, well, then that's a positive thing, right? So it depends on your relationship of how you feel about the animal you chose. However, whatever animal you chose, if you chose one that scares you or makes you fearful, then the market is threatening and a hostile place to you. And usually that means you'll trade from a fearful mindset. The usual outcome of trading from a fearful mindset produces emotional trading, and usually fearful traders exit the market too quickly or cannot even pull the trigger to enter the market at the right time, and they tend to lose money. So if you're afraid, another problem that folks have if they're fearful is that they usually, all right, need structure more than ever and don't have it. And so what happens is when they place a trade today and the market moves a certain way, they immediately in their minds think what happened to them yesterday if they're day traders, or the last trade they saw this. And so they then throw their rules out the window and trade today's market as if it was yesterday's. And so let's say yesterday they stayed in the market and got stopped out. Today they exited the market and the market took off. Okay? So that trading from a fearful mindset, all right, is out of control, and it's creating emotional trading. Okay, on the other side of the coin, if the market is a fun and safe place to you, then obviously you chose an animal that is non-threatening to you. You know, a favorite pet or something like that. However, also we have a problem if you take this to the extreme as well. If you think the market is just a la place, okay, this will lead you to a lackadaisical, unstructured trading approach as well, and you'll probably enter markets without using any risk control because you don't think there's anything to worry about or fear at all. So you got to create a balance, okay? You need a balance, and that balance can be created by a structured trading approach. And the more structured it is, especially in the beginning, all right, the more calmly you'll trade, and at that particular point, you won't fear the market, all right? You'll just treat it as business as normal, okay? All right, now I want to talk a little bit about beliefs and thoughts, okay? And the purpose of this is not to really say, you know, well, a belief, you know, does this and does that, and I'm not really going to get into that because somebody might take psychology and say, well, we learned in Psychology 101 that an idea was not really a thought because it's in the center cortex of the brain and blah, blah, blah. That's not the point of this, okay? What we want to talk about here instead is what is the difference in relationship between beliefs, thoughts, attitudes, and behaviors. So thoughts and ideas. Thoughts, okay, subconscious and conscious, are going through our mind all the time. I mean, every day we have thoughts, some fleeting, some not. But we're always having thoughts come into our mind, right? The most important thing about thoughts are the ones we energize with emotions. Those are the ones that usually end up turning into beliefs. Okay, so a belief, we can think of a belief as an energized thought that you can make real or accept as true, okay? And a belief can be both good and bad. You can have a destructive belief too. Some people believe they're winners. Some people believe they're losers. Attitudes. Beliefs create attitudes and can influence our actions and reactions. Behavior, the result of beliefs, thoughts, and attitudes set into action. Emotions that are attached to our thoughts, this ultimately creates our behavior. So it's kind of something interesting to think about. So how can this affect you as a trader, okay? All right, as a trader, how much emotions, let me ask a question, how much emotions do you attach to losing? All right, and this is a personal question. You don't have to answer this in the chat area. And how much do you attach to winning? Now, a lot of times when we trade, we are expecting to win. You know, we bought this expensive trading system. Hey, we're expected to win. That's why we're doing this. All right? So when you win, hey, that's cool. That's nice. But when you lose, what happens? You get mad, especially in the beginning. And if you get mad, guess what? You start attaching a lot of energy and emotion to that mad thought, that losing. So what happens is you start to energize losing more than you do winning. And guess what happens? You start losing more. So be careful what you energize is the point here. Now your core beliefs, okay, is something to talk about. Do you perceive yourself as a winner or a loser? And your core beliefs about money as a trader, is it good or bad? I mean, how are you going to be a successful trader if you believe money is the root of all evil, so to speak? All right? How about trading? Remember I asked you in the beginning of the session, is trading the perfect business? Is it possible? All right? If you don't think so, then you've already a little bit behind the eight ball, so to speak. And we got to change that. How about success in general? Do you deserve it? Now these are all deep personal core beliefs that only you can answer, but they can be changed. Okay? All right, so how do we change these beliefs? Let's say you have, let's just this example. Let's say your belief system says that money is the root of all evil. Okay? The first thing, and I know there's a lot of different sayings on this, but let's say you were brought up in a home, all right, where your mom and dad, for some reason, thought anybody with a lot of money was not a good person. Okay, they were corrupt or whatever. That's going to influence your thoughts about money, isn't it? All right? So the first thing we want to do when we change a belief is really get in touch with what feelings, what beliefs we have are destructive and what are good. And the same way of saying destructive is disempowering, okay? All right, so you want to isolate the feelings that are disempowering or destructive. First thing you got to do is understand how you develop this core belief. Go back in time. Remember when I talked about your environment creating or influencing your beliefs? Go back and find out why you feel this. And then think of ways in which you can change the belief. For example, you know, money, if you have a lot of money, you can actually do a lot of good with money, can't you? All right, you can take care of your family, your kids, you can give to charity. So another side of that thought is that instead of money being evil or associated with corruption or whatever, you need to think about it as something good instead. And you need to energize that. So you cannot dispute that if you're giving some of your wins to charity and you're taking care of your family, that is not a good thing. So now you replace the old belief with the new belief and collapsing the old belief into a new one. The new belief now may be, of course, money can do wondrous things in the world, or maybe people with money are generous. Think of ways that support the belief. You are now ready to move on into creating what you deserve. Remember, that what you can conceive and believe you can actually achieve. So you need to sit down with yourself and really go over your disempowering beliefs, okay? You know, a very common one is maybe you're a little overweight and you never think you can lose the weight. All right, well, why do you think that? All right, and work on that and change the belief. All right, let's look a little bit at environment here, okay? And the environment, of course, as we just talked about, maybe where the environment you grew up in and so forth could be impacting your current belief system. Maybe your current environment could be affecting it as well. So you want to think about your past when you're doing this self-analysis and maybe how that may be influencing your current beliefs. And think about your present and do the same thing. We each have a unique maze. None of us are perfect. We all have our issues. We all have our demons, so to speak. All right? So the thing is not to run from them, but to face them head on. All right, here's that proverbial glass is half full or half empty. All right? And depending on whether it's a visual illusion, in this case, maybe the slanted sides of the glass make it appear one way or another to some. Maybe the glass is filled exactly halfway, which it is in this picture. All right? But depending on your mood, you may not see it that way. You may not want to see it that way. Okay? Maybe you'll want to see it both. It's half full and half empty. All right, so how do we use all this information to create the trader's mindset? What do we need to do? What are the action steps required? Let's take a look. All right, the first thing to do is understand all these phases of perception and also the fact of illusions and emotional perception as well, all right, and how they can impact your reality. So when you look at a source, and in this case for traders that would be a chart, all right, we all look at the chart. Now, depending on how you have the chart stretched on the X and Y axis, right away may create a visual illusion that somebody else may not see. Okay? But even if you both have it set exactly the same, the next thing we do is we take a look at that source and we take a look at our beliefs or how you perceive or see it. All right? Then we start to interpret it using our analysis and we get a new perceived unique message from the source. And for traders, do we want to go long, short, or stay out of the market? So that's kind of the process you'll do when you look at a chart. You'll have your own analysis. And this is why, so to speak, no two traders really always trade the same way because of the different variables involved, whether an illusional perception or an emotional perception affecting that. But we ultimately really trade our own belief system. And I can tell you that if you go back to the example of the two people living in the same town, running the exact same store, and one's a success and one's a failure, all right, and that person goes on to something else, you'll probably find the same thing happen. And it's because they're living their belief system. All right, so our minds are capable of more than we realize. And quantum physics has a whole bunch to say about this, but you can certainly go down the rabbit hole with quantum physics. But basically, consciousness is perceived physical reality. Time exists and we move in time. Price velocity on charts are the movement of prices through time. So they represent the consciousness of all traders. Now, price represents moments of mass consciousness generated by highly energized thoughts that become beliefs, and this is why markets can be irrational at times. Go back to the year 2000, the dot-com bubble, for example. None of those dot-com companies, for the most part, were making any money. But I can tell you, in the late 1990s, if a company came out with a dot-com internet site, the stock went up. Because the mass consciousness, all right, was energized by the thought of the internet being the next greatest thing, regardless of whether it was making money or not, from a reality standpoint. So this is why markets can get irrational at times. Now, can you make money off the irrationality? Certainly you can. You can take advantage of that when you recognize it. That's the key. Now, mass beliefs do influence prices. Okay, I just gave you that example of how that can happen. And since this can happen on a mass scale, we also know that this can happen on a personal level. Your beliefs can influence your trading results, and this is what makes traders losers or winners. So the markets can be irrational, but so can our beliefs, and therefore our beliefs can control our actions and create our reality. That's all I'm going to say about this. There's a whole bunch of reading on quantum physics, trust me, but I think that's kind of an important point because I'm not trying to change you here. I'm trying to make you aware so you can change yourself. Now, let's continue a little bit more because we got some more material to cover here. All right, some of the things that I think will help you, all right, besides getting in touch with your belief system and changing your disempowering beliefs, is learn to live and trade in the present moment. And this is especially true for traders. If you have an edge, a system that you have tested, and it has an edge, and it's a consistent system, but you're not going to win all the time. All right, if you trade in the present moment, stick to your trading rules and trade it. And don't worry about how the system worked on yesterday's market, because today is a new day. And don't worry about what's going to happen in the future. Trade the present moment. Stick with your rules. You need to stop any type of denial you have, all right? Don't run from your fear. We all have these little things, okay? Don't run from your fear, your past, or your present. Seek the truth in yourself and your environment. Face your problems head on. You know, a lot of traders, what they'll do is they'll start out with good intentions of record keeping. And then as their results aren't quite what they want them to be, they stop keeping good records. That's a form of denial. Instead of saying, hey, I got a problem here, I need to fix it, they just keep going on, and then what happens is usually they become more unstructured and more emotional, okay, and become emotional traders, which is not a good thing, okay? You need to become aware of your emotional triggers, and we all have them, and realize how they can affect you and your relationship with reality, both in trading and out of trading, okay? And you know what I mean when I'm saying emotional triggers, all right? Clear link between emotional reactivity and trading performance. More intense emotions, feelings to monitor. In other words, what this statement really is saying is that if you have money in the market that you can't afford to risk or lose because you need to pay your rent with it, then chances are, all right, that is going to create a big problem for you because you're not going to be calm about that money, and you're not going to be able to adhere to your structured trading approach because you're constantly going to be worrying about what if I lose it. All right, so basically what we're saying here is you must face reality and accept it. And you're going to have to dig deep inside yourself and find out who you really are, okay? And also, what are you really afraid of, all right? Now, let me ask you a question. Fear and greed. Let's talk a little bit about that because it came up before. Which is more powerful, do you think, fear or greed? And answer this in the chat area, and I'll share some of these. Some say fear. Fear, greed, both. Fear, greed. Okay, let's go a little further now. So it's a little bit of 50-50 there. All right, we'll go to Mr. Buffett here, who says there is no comparison between fear and greed. Fear is instant, pervasive, and intense. Greed is slower. Fear hits. However, I got to tell you, I don't necessarily agree with Mr. Buffett on that totally. I agree sometimes fear can certainly feel like it hits harder. But isn't there an element of fear in greed as well? For example, if you want to get into a market because you want to be greedy, but you're kind of fearful if you don't get into that market, you won't make profit. So fear and greed are kind of married, aren't they? Kind of interesting. Now, this is an interesting response from Haley. I don't feel either is powerful unless you give them power. Ah, good point. To be a successful trader, our job is to exploit fear and greed in the markets and stay calm and balanced, isn't it? Because we can spot fear when we don't feel fear ourselves. We can spot it in the market. You can see it. It's a frenzy, feeding frenzy. You can take advantage of that. So the goal here is see fear and greed for what they are. Emotions. Be able to spot these emotions in the markets and exploit them. Emotions create volatility, increased volume, fast markets, and fractals or pivot points representing behavior changes. Now you can see some elongated price bars at the top or bottom of markets on high volume. That's an indication of emotions at work between fear and greed. All right, this is probably a pretty cool saying. I've got a few sayings here. In order to succeed, your desire for success should be greater than your fear of failure. Okay, let's talk about failure here a little bit and fear. All right, I'm going to list a few professions here. Samurai warrior, combat fighter pilots, race car drivers, and traders. What do they have in common? What do they have in common? And what do they do to control fear? Need for fast reaction time, good. Alone, hey, that's interesting, Robert. Good point. What else? They put it on the line all the time. Ooh, interesting. All right, so all those are right answers. What do they all do? Okay, what do they all do in terms of preparation? And they all have confidence, as Steve says. Yeah, what gives them that confidence? Practice, right. Okay, practice. Samurai warrior, hey, you know what it takes to do that. You got to practice every day, all your entire life, right? In fact, the samurai warriors, when they go into a battle, they have what they call no mind, which means they live in the present and react. They don't want to think about the future or the past. And a lot of them state that when they do, they usually are done. All right? Combat fighter pilots, what do? Practice. They are both practicing all the time. And they do it in simulators as well, okay, especially the new ones, because they don't want to crash those billion-dollar planes, right? Race car drivers, okay? They don't hit the track in the beginning at full speed, all right? They practice until they get up there. Traders, successful traders, paper trade, simulate trading, get their rules together or get organized until they're ready. If you rush into the markets without being ready, all right, that's psychologically sabotaging yourself. That's why we're listing it here. Think of a samurai warrior or a combat fighter pilot. Think if he thought, well, in 2 weeks I'll be ready to fly off an aircraft carrier. And then think of the arrogance of traders that think in 2 weeks they'll be able to make a fortune in the market. You get it? You got to practice. And it takes time. It's not overnight. Fear also usually is the reason that most people never leave their comfort zone. Keeps them in the comfort zone. But the magic happens when you get out of that comfort zone. So let go of your fear, all right? And if you want to be a good trader, go for it. But be smart about it. Get your trading approach honed down so you have it set. Fear is relative to each one of us because it is an illusion to some degree. It's false evidence appearing real. Sometimes fear is not. Sometimes fear is a good thing, okay? But most of the time, the kind of fear I'm talking about is self-created. Also, visualization skills. There's a place for this in psychology. I think you need to see yourself successful. I think this is all about changing your belief system. Builds positive beliefs about yourself. See yourself succeeding. If, for example, if you're a public speaker and you're about to go out and speak in front of a group and you see yourself failing, well, you're kind of, again, putting yourself behind the 8 ball, aren't you? So you want to try to visualize yourself doing a good job out there. Because usually what we kind of feel deep inside is what ultimately occurs because we kind of tend to gravitate towards that. It's energizing those beliefs. Believe in yourself. Hey, very simple, all right? Do you believe in yourself? Do you believe you can be successful? Do you believe successful trading is possible? Do you believe you can make a living trading? If you don't believe it, then that is why you fail. I even think Yoda said that on one of the Star Wars movies, if I'm not mistaken. All right? But it's so true. Learn the correct balance between fear and greed. Learn skills to build confidence. Ideally, when you trade, you kind of want to get to a place mentally where you're trading and you have an edge that you're using. You know the boundaries of that edge. When it stops working, you know to cut your trade size, figure out why it's not working. Are you facing markets you've never seen before, or are you not trading the system like it should be traded because you're tired, you're not feeling well? You may be having a psychological issue that's impeding what you're doing at this particular phase of your trading. Get to the bottom of it. That's the key, okay? Learn to trade the markets with the belief you will succeed and in full awareness without fear, anxiety, or despair. This allows a balance that manifests itself into a positive reality, creating a feeling of abundance and goodwill. This is a kind of an interesting saying here. Your thoughts shape your beliefs, and your beliefs in turn shape your thoughts. Your beliefs shape your emotions, such as fear and greed. Emotions such as fear and greed are relative based on your unique beliefs and what's been energized, right? Fear and greed drive the markets and life itself. Ultimately, you live your beliefs, which create your reality. Trading is nothing more than a vehicle you choose to create your reality by trading your beliefs. So choose and protect your thoughts carefully. In other words, energize the thoughts that are going to lead you to success. All right, now this is kind of an interesting thought too. You look into the abyss. The question is, what do you see? The answer will be different for each one of us. Therein lies our results and our realities. This has nothing to do with intellect. We haven't really talked at all about intellect, at all. All right, so as a recap here, your mind is basically creating illusions you may not even be aware of. Illusions may be visual, or as we discussed, may be created subconsciously by emotions created by beliefs. Are your emotions such as fear distorting what is real and how you interpret and act in the markets? How your mind sees and interprets the markets may be affecting your trading without you even being aware of it. You may be self-sabotaging yourself and not even realize you're doing it based on a core belief you have that is destructive or disempowering. Do you think it is important at this point to learn skills to control your emotions and identify distorted illusions before they sabotage your trading? You bet, okay? You bet. All right, so the idea here is you want to master your psychology, master your trading. It's an important part, okay, of the pie. Now, a lot of folks, this is kind of an interesting point, all right. It is important to realize that you must believe in yourself and react and be aware of the risk in trading the financial markets. Many positive thinkers preach that if you think only positive thoughts and say only positive affirmations, you will succeed. While this may be a good start, it falls very short of what is really needed. All right, you need to have balance, and you need to have the roll up your sleeves, so to speak, and get your trading rules so they're profitable before going in with real money. So it's not just a matter of only positive thinking. We're talking about that's a start, but you also, that positive thinking has got to lead you to taking the correct actions to do well in the market. Okay, this leads us to the home study course that I told you about earlier in the presentation that we have on psychology. So basically, if this presentation interested you or triggered some thoughts that you want to explore further, this is the best course on trading psychology out there. It's one I've written and I've used with a variety of my students. I do a lot of coaching and consulting, and it really does a great job. There's exercises that you will have to do. There is video entailed in this, and it's an online course. You go at your own pace. You have access basically forever on this, 24/7. You can go in at any time and review the material or go back. But the object of this is to get you into the proper state of mind so you can be successful doing this business. I'm getting a question from Lori. How long will it take to go through the study course? Not too long, but there's about 3 hours of video, a little over 3 hours, and there is PowerPoint with that, and we cover a lot of information. So I suggest not going too fast through it, but it's not going to take you, you could probably get through it all in probably 4 or 5 days. But I would even say if it took you a week or two or a month, that's fine as well. Some of the things some of the exercises may require you to kind of get deep within yourself in terms of figuring out some of your core beliefs. And it's hard to really tell you how long that's going to take because that's such a personal thing for each one of us. All right, so let's see what else we got here. I love this saying, okay? This is my example of don't be your worst enemy. You are far too smart to be the only thing standing in your way. That's kind of cool. Just because you are struggling does not mean you are failing. How true, okay? Every great success requires some kind of struggle to get there. Opportunity always comes with opposition, so hang in there. So when you're trading, treat trading kind of like anything that requires mastery, whether it's playing a piano or a musical instrument. It's not going to happen overnight. The thing is, don't give up, okay? Keep at it. Even when you hit a wall, keep at it, okay? If you are searching for that one person that will change your life, take a look in the mirror. Love that one. In order to succeed, your desire for success should be greater than your fear of failure. True. Maturity comes when you stop making excuses and start making changes. Have no fear of perfection. You'll never reach it. That's a classic. All right. A lot of people that go into the markets, and I'll kind of finish up here because I know we're coming up on the end of the hour here. A lot of people that go into the markets have come from other fields and were very successful, and they have a form of doing things perfect. And yet they get into the markets, and what happens is 2 + 2 does not always equal 4 in the markets. And the reason for that is that the markets are irrational at times. So you got to let go of your perfection, okay, because you'll never reach it. Instead, go with your results and have an edge. And finally, the universe is not punishing you. It is not blessing you. It is not controlling you. The universe responds to the vibrations you are creating. Think happy and happiness will come to you. Think negatively and negativity will come to you. So I think that's kind of an important thing. Think of it like an echo. Winners are not people who never fail, but people who never quit. Amen to that one, right? Okay, so that's it. And that wraps up tonight's presentation. You all were terrific. I loved your responses. Great feedback from each and every one of you, and I thank you for coming. And if you're having trouble with your psychology, I strongly suggest you get it. I think you owe it to yourself to do that. So you guys and gals have a great night out there. Gene, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you so much.
Bennett, thank you. That was a terrific presentation, and I think psychology is the key. I think, as you say, it's the glue that holds everything together. So again, this is Jean McDowell with traderscoach.com, and tonight's event has been recorded. You'll find it posted in the chat area in the link, with the link to the traderscoach.com archived events. Next week will not be having Wednesday Night Live because it's going to be Thanksgiving week. So if we don't talk to you before then, we hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving. We all have a lot to be grateful and thankful for. Good night to everyone. Have a great night, and thank you again for coming.